Let go.
Welcome to Letting Go with Grace. I'm Dr. Tasha.
And I'm Porcha. We're family.
We want to share our relationship with you. This is a safe space where no topic's off limits. We're successful, ambitious women, wrapped in Black girl magic, and we're on a mission to have it all. Love, peace, and the freedom to be authentic.
We let go of control and judgment, learning to give ourselves grace as we implement biblical principles to do life God's way.
So, Portia, you ready?
I'm ready. What about you? Are you ready?
Ready to let go.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Letting Go with Grace. I am your host, Coach Porcha.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Tasha, how's everybody doing this morning?
And I know y'all probably thinking, y'all don't usually do it in that order. Like it's usually Dr. Tasha who says to Coach Porcha, but we're going to flip the script this morning because we have a special guest in the room. So as you can see, our topic for today is becoming her. And that topic is actually a parallel to the book of the person that is here today. So I just want to introduce our guest for today, and we're going to tell you guys what we're going to be talking about, and hopefully she can share a little bit about herself. So before she starts to tell y'all who she is, I need to tell y'all who she is to me. So this is Miss Crishell Monet, and this is actually my biological sister. So community, I just want to introduce y'all to my big sis. She is my big sis, just by a little bit, so don't get excited. But I want to introduce you to her, and she just wrote a book recently, and so we wanted to bring her on because we felt like the book is kind of parallel to some of the stuff that we talk about on our podcast. So we wanted to bring her on with us and have a conversation about what her book is about, and hopefully some of the information we talk about will be helpful to somebody else who's actually going through her same journey, or who may resonate with some of the things that she went through in her life. So hi, Chris. Introduce yourself to the community.
Hi, you all. I am Crishell Monet, and as Coach Porcha stated, I am her big sister. And we've known each other for a couple of years now. That's a whole nother story for another day. But since meeting Portia, she has been just such an instrumental piece in my life. She has helped guide me, and I tell her things also. And I mentioned her in my book because I just wanted her to know that she is an important piece, an important person in my life. So I thank God for her.
Hearts, everybody. It's like twin souls over here, y'all. Y'all just don't know. We don't have time to get into it, but I'm just saying.
A lot, guys. Divine too. But yeah, this is my first time doing an interview or speaking, so y'all have to bear with me as I go through some of my nerves here. But yeah, that's I'm here to do my best and present myself in the best way possible, and then just speak to you guys about my book and how.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for giving us that intro. So you guys know, and this is actually Dr. Tasha's line, but I'm gonna use it. So in Letting Go with Grace, you know that we are wordies, and we actually love the definition of words. And so before getting started, we want to define what becoming actually means. Like that's important for us to know the true definition of it, so you can understand how we're gonna go through this conversation. So the true definition of becoming is the process of coming to be something or passing into a state. So that's the basic definition of becoming. But more than that, I wanted each of us to have an opportunity to kind of tell what we think becoming is. And we'll start with our guest. So what do you think? What is becoming to you, Chris?
Becoming is just really evolving. It's just a constant state of evolving. It's all about learning, just figuring more. So for me, it's figuring more about myself, like who I am, what I desire to be. So for me, that's part of becoming, is just really evolving.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So evolving, evolution, getting to know yourself are some of the key words that I heard as you were talking. Dr. Tasha, what are your thoughts on the term becoming?
No, Chris, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. I think it is like the evolution. And even as we sit here, if I just may, just for a moment before we get it, just speak to you, because I can sense that you're nervous, and I get it. And but you launching your baby. This is your baby. This is the evolution of all of the stories and the work and the transforming into becoming the authentic version of yourself. So I want just take a deep breath and just live in that. Live in the confidence that you birthed something and you are becoming. It is the evolution and just the transformation of becoming the authentic version of ourselves. And I think it's the process and it's the journey and it's the um, transition from good to better to best to healthiest.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, I just want to just a moment because I don't want you to forget we are your first interview and I'm excited about this and I don't believe we are going to be your last interview. And so I want to just speak that confidence into you because you've done the work, you pushed it out.
Mhm.
And so that's what becoming is about.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you for the pause because I'm sure it was much needed. I love the ing on the word because becoming is actually just becoming, not become or have became. It is literally a journey that continues, and it's like through the rest of our life. We can stop at the end of your book and say this is becoming, but it's not because you are still in evolution even after the book is completed. So I love the ing on it, becoming her. Like I'm still doing this. I'm going to be doing this until the day that I die. So evolution that continues throughout the remainder of our life is what I got from just the ing on the word. So amazing topic, amazing title
Yes.
that you came up with. I know you do that very well, but amazing title. And so just want to honor you in that. And like Dr. Tasha was saying, this is a baby you done already birthed. It's like looking at your kid for the first time. Of course, you're looking at it a little nervous, like, what am I gonna do with this child? But you love them so much, you know. And so this is what this is. So it's what an amazing opportunity and experience for you. I couldn't be prouder of you just finishing, you know, just finish it, bring it into fruition. We got to bring it onto this side. It's no longer in your head. It's now on the pages of a book and in the hands of many. And so we definitely want that to continue to grow. All right. So before we go on, you were breaking up a little bit just a minute ago, and I don't want to take anything away from the interview. I want everybody to be able to hear you. So I wanted to let you know that it broke up just a little bit as we were talking earlier. So if there's something we can do to fix it, so we don't have to worry about that.
Did that you hear me clearly? Or
We can still sound like it's breaking up a little.
okay, how's that? Is that any better?
That's
That is
much better. There you go. That's good. Okay. All right. So let's get started into some of these questions. And the community kind of knows how we flow. You know, we're gonna go with whatever the Holy Spirit is telling us. So we are gonna start, you know, with some basic questions, and let's just see where this conversation goes as we get going. So tell me about this book, Letting Go. Where did the concept come from? You know, what was this journey and this process, the first thought that you may have had when you got started writing this book?
You said becoming her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think you said something else, but that's okay. Um,
Thanks, girl. Go ahead.
um, for me, I just it just came to a point in my life where I recognized that there was a lot that was going on, that um it was so familiar, and I was just tired of just the familiar. I wanted to journey into something that was unfamiliar for me, but I knew that it was something that was in me. So I just decided that I have a story that I want to tell, and the best way for me to do that would to put that in writing and put it in a book, because I'm not the person who does a lot of talking and a lot of speaking. I have a lot of thoughts, and I do much better with my thoughts being on paper. So again, it was just a time for me to just sit down, sit still, to be by myself and with God, so I can begin to create something that I knew that was in me to do. So, just from my own experiences, just going through life and just going through different things, I wanted to share that with other people. I wanted them to, I wanted to give them an invitation to who Crishell is and how Crishell think. And so I just put it on paper, and I just created this book, and it took me a minute to complete it, but I knew that I had to finish,
Mm.
and I wanted to be relatable, so, and I wanted to also include not just stories, but just pieces of myself. So again, people that may wonder about who Crishell is because she doesn't do a lot of talking, I just put my thoughts down on paper and created this book, Becoming Her.
Mm.
Oh, can I picked up on, so even before you said something, I wrote something on the paper. I wrote be still. And I think you said be still 3 times. Um, and so I think on the journey of becoming, can you speak to so 2 things. Right before you knew it was time to birth the book and to write the book, or to write the book, what did life feel like for you? So that's my first question, and then I'll do the follow up. So, like, some emotions and, like, what did it feel like or look like for you?
Oh, before the end, I can say that I was exhausted. I was just exhausted from just life, like I said, just kind of repeating itself. And I knew in order for that to stop, that I had to be still and just begin to just, again, just put my thoughts onto paper. So I do a lot of journaling. I have tons, of books that I've journaled, but I knew that I wanted to do more than just journal. I wanted to put, again, my words into a book so people can understand like what was on my mind. But to answer your question, for me, I was just exhausted.
Mm. Mhm.
And I think that when I think about becoming, I think that that's probably one of the first stages that we get to. Um, that is the indication that there's a shift about to
Mhm.
happen. Is the exhaustion. We come to the end of ourselves, of the things that the coping behaviors and the things that we have used to keep us safe and to get us there, and it becomes a task, and it becomes so exhausting trying to show up in those things. So I thank you for your transparency and the vulnerability of talking about that, because I'm sure there will be many women who are watching this who are trying to figure out what that feeling is.
Mhm.
It's exhaustion, sis. It's you're tired. That's
Mhm.
what it is.
Absolutely. It's the deep breath that's not deep enough for you to get the rest that you feel like you need. Like I can recall that space of exhaustion, and it was I would do this. And my therapist would be like, "Oh no." She like knew what it meant. Like, okay, you are not just tired, you are now exhausted. But it does put you into action. And that's what on the other side of that exhaustion is action. So yeah, it's a very pivotal moment, and sounds like that's what you're kind of describing. It was that moment where I like Dr. Tosh said, I've come to the end of myself. I don't know what else to do. And then there's this quiet, still voice that tells you what to do next, which is, in your case, be still.
Right.
And then let's write. How about that? You know, and this is the thing about God that I want to point out, and how practical He really is, and how He will come to you in the way that He knows He can get to you. Very specific to you, unique to you. Your exhaustion brought you to something that was familiar, which was journaling. He didn't ask you to go out and speak to the masses. He was like, let's sit still and journal. That was your story because it was unique to you. You know, and it's probably many people in the community that can say, I got to my space of exhaustion, and what I ended up doing was speaking, because I do that normally. But He's not going to ask me to do something that He's asking you to do, because He knows me and
Right.
He knows you. So our exhaustion is not a ploy to go be and do and be somebody else. Like, what I understand about becoming is that point of exhaustion is about learning how to be yourself, authentically yourself.
Yes.
And God is a God. You know, your hairs are numbered. So that means He knows everything about you. He's a good father. So He's gonna ask you to do it the way you know how to do it. You know?
Yes. Yes.
I can say that because when you spoke about that, I was thinking like being exhausted is from trying to escape, you know, life and just running away. And that for me is something that I think that I've done, is just before the book was always just try to escape and run because I was exhausted from where I was at. But becoming is about not running away from, but running,
Mm, that's
going
good.
full, you know, um, attacking it, you know, going into it and not
Mm-hmm.
away from it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Good.
also something I wanted to add.
I
That's
absolutely
good. I'm
love
gonna like
that.
wow, all right, that was good. Because
Church.
yes, what I'm exhaustion brings you to a place of radical honesty.
Hmm.
Because as high performing women, we tend to get busy, right? We escape it with our work. We will create new projects. We will get busy with the kids. And so, what I hear you saying, Chris, is that um, it brought you to a place of radical honesty. So, when you talk about the being still, it's like, I got to look at it. I got to
Mm-hmm.
be honest that the choices that I've made, the consequences that I'm living in, and I have to face it.
Yeah.
So, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is so good. So, okay, we understand what the becoming was about and how you got started in this book and this journey. And you are really transparent in your book. Like, you are literally bringing yourself. I could just assume that that was therapeutic for you, given the fact that you don't talk all the time. And you probably thought these people really want to know all of this stuff. And since I don't ever say it, I'm gonna give them what they want, because they, you know, they keep thinking but not saying much. They don't really know me like that. You know, this is an opportunity for them to get to know me.
Right.
So your first chapter you titled, Who Do You Think You Are? Tell me what that was about for you.
um, I just I never knew who I was, and I think I think I had the identity of whoever. I was taking on the identity of whoever I was around. You know, I was mimicking people, and I was, you know, just accepting whatever came my way, and, you know, never really paused to think about who do I think that, I mean, who am I? Like, who am I really, you know? And just with that chapter, it just, if you read the book, you notice that that's the longest chapter. Is who do you think that you are? Because I had a lot that I wanted to get out on that topic, but um, just like I said, it's just I never really just asked myself that question before, like, who am I, and am I living in my truth? You know, am I being who I know that I am, that I feel like I am, or like I said, am I just taking on this identity of who other people say that I am, you know, based on how I allow them to treat me. You know, I was that person that had a hard time with no, and you know, just not having, I guess, that confidence, just to be able to to just be, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
just not having the confidence, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of why this chapter came about. And again, it's my longest chapter because there were things that I definitely wanted to get out and express, and I wanted other women that read the book to ask themselves that question if they never had, like, who do you think that you are? Are you who other people say that you are, or do you know yourself well enough to be able to answer that question?
Mm-hmm. That is so good.
I love that title because I think it could go both ways. And so I think the first one of the many steps of becoming is that self-awareness, self-reflection piece. And so that title speaks to that. Who do you think you are? I think that that gives you an opportunity to one, get clear and honest. That's that radical honesty. Um, because a lot of times there's those limiting beliefs that we have, and like you talked about, the people pleasing and the becoming the chameleon in the room, who, you know, becoming whatever you need to become based off of who you're around. um, and I think that's like, it's really hard to have that level of awareness to be able to say, um, and I'm gonna say this again, especially as high performing women, because we usually see ourselves as what we're doing. um, but I think that question challenges you to get honest about the heart. Like, no, who do I really like? Who do I really believe I am? What are some of these limiting beliefs that I have that are creating me not to have these boundaries, that are creating me to make these choices, that are having me show up in these people pleasing situations? And so I think it's the self awareness and the self reflection
Mm-hmm.
gets us to the place of becoming. So I love the journey of the truth of, I got to look at what is. So I got to just look at the ugly truth of, this is how I see myself. How do I know? Look at my actions, look at my behaviors, look at some of these consequences. Um, but then having the grace. And so what I'm hearing when you talk about this is the grace to keep moving forward, the forward movement of, okay, yep, I see that. I'm gonna have some grace with myself, and now continuing that journey.
Mhm.
You know, I was just sitting here thinking, and it's probably to take us on a different road, because even as a high performing woman, you could not, no matter the performance and the level um, that I was able to get to, you could not erase the fact that I had not been imprinted. And what I mean by that is, I didn't have a relationship with my father. I didn't know who I was. And much like you're talking about, Chris, the world was imprinting on me who I was because there was nobody there to do that initially. And so it doesn't matter how much money you make. When you didn't get imprinted, the world has been imprinting on you. Like, that's just the truth. And you are trying to find yourself. So I want to coin that. Like, you were not imprinted, so you started to imprint on your own. And I want to ask you, Chris, like, as you talked about, I didn't really know who I was, and the world was imprinting, because that's the first thing I thought about. Your canvas was blank, and other people started to tell you who you were, and you just started to resonate because there was a gap between who was supposed to tell you and who was actually saying it. So
Right.
can you tell me, because this is something that you and I can relate in, um, what that was like? In your book, you talk about your relationship with your father, you talk about your relationship with your mother. Um, how did that impact you knowing who you were?
Ah, that impacted me greatly, um, because one of the things that I mentioned in the book is having the last name of a man that I never knew. So, of course, that's going to give you some issues with your own identity and realizing, you know, who are you? Who, there's something missing. You know what I mean? there's something missing and there's someone missing. Like,
Mhm.
where a person that's supposed to be present in my life that helps me to identify who I am. If I don't really know you, then I don't really know me.
Mhm.
Um, and just, you know, I want to say, and I've said this in my book too, that I want to honor my mom because she was honest with me to let me know that she made a mistake, you know, by giving me the last name of a man that she thought was my father. But she never knew what that did for me. And I never was able to express how I felt to her, because we had, you know, our own issues between her and I. That did a lot for me, you know, just growing up, because I wasn't so close with her, and I, you know, had this feeling of misplacement, you know, just again, that just set the tone for me just from the start, you know, with my mom and my dad just not being as present and not showing me who they really were. You know, it was my mom was going through so much as a single mom, and most of her focus was on those that really needed her the most, which I feel like were my brothers.
Mhm.
So, you know, that did a lot for me. That was my beginning, and that kind of set the tone for me going out into the world and still not knowing who I am. And that just kind of just you know carried on just in my relationships and my friendships. Just who am I in this relationship, who am I in this friendship? I don't really know me, so you know I'm just gonna again just kind of mimic what I'm seeing going on and just accepting that that was my reality, you know, until
Mhm.
I came to the point where I needed to figure out like who is this person, like who is Crishell.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. No, that's I have like there's so many thoughts I'm thinking about, but I just the grace for that story, right? The grace for, and I can hear your heart. Being able to come to a place where you can have grace for your parents, your mom, not knowing, and I think it's a this and that. I think in the Black community we good at saying, this is how something impacted my life, but my mama didn't know, or but my daddy didn't know. And I think it's healthy and saying, and yeah, they didn't know, and it impacted me, right? And it left me with this hole of not knowing who I am. Um, I'm curious, how did you get to the place of forgiveness? Because I hear that in your heart where you have forgiven it to do your work. Because I think a lot of people get stuck there. We get stuck in the story and being the victim. And yes, you are, right? We are all victimized by how our parents show up. But how did you transition from that place so that you could begin to do your work?
Oh, I guess just having grace, just understanding what grace really is, and just knowing that my father, you know, he was figuring life out for himself and what that meant for him. Same with my mom. Um, so it wasn't hard for me to be able to forgive. Like I don't know if I've ever really held any type of resentment towards either one of them. You know, um, I think I do pretty well with just letting go and letting things be what they are. I understood that things needed to be said and be spoken, and I never let them I never let them feel like that they did me wrong, you know, because again, I just wanted to give them the grace just because I knew that they also had their own stories and they also had, you know, trouble or whatever in their lives as well. So that kind of just it affected me how it did, but I haven't had a problem even now today just with other people in my life. I just haven't had a problem with being able to forgive and just letting things be because I wanted to just extend that grace, you know, because we're all just trying to figure things out and we're all, you know, not really I just, like I said, I just never had so much of a problem, like just forgiving people and letting things be. I value what I have with both of them now. Their presence means more than anything to me. So just knowing that I have them and that they're there, just it does what it needs to do for me and for my heart. So I've never had a problem with forgiving either of them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's a God thing. I think it speaks a lot to your character as well. Just because I do know how many people allow that story to hold them back. And so to have a heart that is willing to lead with grace. And so I want to challenge people who are struggling with that, to check in with that victim mindset, because things can happen to us, but we don't have to be a victim of it. And what I'm hearing Crishell say is that part of her journey, um, is just being able to lead with that grace, because I think it's the unforgiveness will hold us back from the journey of becoming. So I think that that does speak to just the woman that you are naturally able to be in that place.
Absolutely.
I think it's so crazy. So there's a part of the story that our listeners don't know, but like Crishell said, we just met 3 years ago. Um, how if when you're listening to Crishell's story, you're also listening to Portia's. It is that identical, even up to the last name of a man that wasn't my father. So you are literally listening to me as you listen to Crishell when she's telling, the generalization of her story. Um, and how it all impacted. I was the girl that I thought daddy issues was like written on my forehead. I literally asked people before, is it right here? Like, can you see something that I can't see? Is it daddy issue like across my forehead? Because I felt like people would kind of exploit. But there is something great about grace, and one thing that I am so grateful to God that He gave the both of us, which was the ability to forgive and to move forward. And there's one thing about life that I now understand is that you can give grace to people when you're honest about who you are. If you're not honest about who you are, you can't give no grace because you assume that you're perfect. The
Right.
moment you realize I lived a life too and I done some stuff and some folks had to forgive me, you will lead a little bit different
Mm.
when you talk to people about the things that they've done and the issues that they've had, and to include people who their responsibility was to take care of you, but knowing their story and understanding your own gives us the ability to have grace. So for our community, as the challenge that Dr. Tasha just gave us, I want you to consider your own life. And Jesus did this. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. He taught us in that moment how to apply grace to someone who was in a troubled situation. And what he said is your life perfect? Is it? If it is, show us. Show us how perfect. Oh, if it's not, go on and move around. And what ended up happening is everybody there had to drop their rocks and walk away. Why? Because we've all done some things. We have all experienced things. We are all just going through life doing the best that we can with what we have. And once you can acknowledge that and you become aware of that and you realize that you have needed grace over and over and over, you extend grace a little bit easier to people, because you want that same thing, right? So that is the thing, like as you're talking about this grace and this forgiveness and how it was able to kind of catapult you into your healing journey, not letting like grabbing hold of it like I'm so mad at you for what you did, I can't believe. It's more like help me understand why. That curiosity takes away the anger and the irritation, and it puts you in a seat to start to try to understand, and that's where the difference happens right there. I just want to know, I just want to understand with curiosity why. um because I know when I had the conversation with my mom and she told me her story, I was like, oh,
Right.
I get that. Okay, that makes sense. I may have done it a little bit different if it was me, knowing what I know today, but you did what you thought you had to do. You did the best you could, and here I am, and it is what it is. So, just for the women who struggle in this environment, in this space, because I'm telling you, it don't matter what you whatever you accomplish. It really doesn't matter. You can be a people pleaser and imprinted by the world as a CEO, or you can be that same girl in a low poverty environment laying in her bed depressed. So perspective is everything, of course, right? But this could be a truism no matter what level of life you on.
Yeah,
And we want
no,
to normalize it. You know, I always talk about the human experience because we like to negate the human experience and act like it didn't exist. But that's all that's existing is our human experience along with our spiritual component. So we can't be like, it is what it is. No, it's not. It's a part of your story.
Right.
Embrace it, you know? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and I want to talk about the ladies on the other side of the pond. 'Cause my journey wasn't so graceful.
Mhm.
One thing that God had to deal with me on destructive entitlement.
Mhm.
I had this sense of entitlement because I was done wrong. Um, and so you talked about the story of the people, getting they wanted to stone them, right? And rightfully so, right? The sin was happening, and it was what it was. Uh, and it was almost like I'm entitled, and there is an entitlement, right? There is an entitlement to a give and take, and as my parents, you providing certain things for me, or people showing up a certain way. But what God had to deal with me is that my entitlement had become destructive because I had start asking people or demanding. That's the word, demanding things from people that they could not give me. Um, and so my story looks a little bit different. My anger lasted a little bit longer. And it was because I was in that place of like, no, you owe me, right? Like, no, you did me wrong. You owe me. And so asking people to give me something that I could not give myself. And what I realized is that I was still seeking, right? That I was worthy enough for you to do something, to give me something, to show up for me. So I want to speak for us ladies who weren't so
Absolutely.
graceful
Mhm.
and our approach.
Yeah. No, yeah, we mean it's all types of folks in this community. So thanks, Dr. Tasha, for like leaning in on the side that because I'm sure that there's a reflection of all of us in this community in some way, shape, or form. Somebody can relate to who we are. And if they can relate to who we are or were, they can relate to the journey of healing as well. So
Yeah,
this is like a testament to the fact that regardless of how you started your life, first off, nothing was wasted. So even though we don't understand the course of our life, God had a plan for the course of your life. And through that, your experiences came characteristics and tools that propel you into your purpose. And
Right.
so, no matter how you got started, what you understand about your life, there's a plan for all of it. And it could all be used and is being used
Right.
um, in our everyday journey. So, that is amazing. Just to point out some of that stuff, I love the conversation of the transparency about how we feel because of our experiences, but how we've kind of shown up and done some other things. So you also talk about, Chris, in your book, people had a perception of who you are. Like you were quiet, you didn't say a whole lot, but you were the quote unquote pretty girl. With the shape and the everything that was attractive to men. But that meant you suffered in silence. So let's talk about that silence. Because people thought you were this and you were actually feeling that. What was that like?
Uh, I guess in that moment, it was it was always just a struggle. It was always just a struggle for me because I know that people had these ideas and these thoughts about, and I noticed because of things that I heard. It's not something that I'm just making up and thinking that people think this way about me. It's things that I've heard, that I heard people say, and things that came back to me about people. And I'm like, I'm not the person that people perceive me to be. Like, because I don't do a lot of talking. I don't do a lot of that. I'm an introverted person, so I just kept to myself. And again, all of the thoughts and everything that I had going on was just, it was suppressed, but I knew that people had these thoughts about who I was. And not that I just was, acting on how people thought that I was, I was just in a state of just being, just being present, just being me and whoever that person was at that time. But, that really, I think that was the main thing that really bothered me so much, is because people did, I was just misunderstood, and I think if I had the ability to really, be outspoken enough, I could have defended some of the things, but I just chose not to, because I know that people are going to live in their own perceptions of people. And, no matter what, sometimes you tell somebody, they're still going to think and believe what they're going to think and believe. So, it wasn't for me to really try to force people into seeing, who I really was. I think, um, more so for me, it was just being, who I thought that I was, and that's just that.
Yeah, I'm sure that had to be hard. People making perceptions about you and you not feeling like you had the platform to be able to speak to it. It's more like, I'll just not talk about it. And it makes me uncomfortable, but I just won't say a word because it's easier for me not to say anything than to tell you like what's on my mind. So I could just imagine what that was like kind of growing up. You dive into, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about for sure. So one of the things is you diving into your relationships, and you talk specifically about the first relationship, and what that was like, and how that kind of catapulted you into really being able to see that these relationships are pretty tough. There's a parts of this that I don't understand. And if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about, go get the book so you can read it and you can see what we're talking about. But what was the relationships, as you were going into your romantic relationships? Because I heard you say that a part of your exhaustion was that the cycle of a relationship that you just kind of couldn't get out of. Um, what was that experience like, from the Crishell now, looking back at yourself as the young girl in this dating relationship? What are your thoughts about that now?
So I realized that I just, I just, I wanted to be wanted, and I didn't know what that really, you know, what that consisted of. I'm trying to go back. It was a while ago, but still, I'm just thinking that it was just wanting to be wanted, wanting to be seen. Um, but also I realized that I never I never expressed those emotions, in that relationship. I was present. I mean, I was in it, but I never expressed how I really felt. I never expressed, what I was thinking. I just thought in my mind that what what I understood a relationship to be was the same thing that this guy understood a relationship to be.
Mm,
That was my first introduction into love, but never expressing that love. It was just the love that kind of burned, on the inside of me, and I felt it greatly. But looking back, I never got that type of love, back. It was in me, it was burning in me, and I knew it. I knew that I felt it, but because I never expressed it, like, the guy, he never did either. So it was just me, just wanting to be seen, and hoping that this guy felt the same way, about me, which he never did. But
mm,
got the opportunity to speak to him like later in life, And I told him, that I loved, how much I loved him. He told me that he never knew. Like he had no idea that I felt that way about him. Like 'cause I never expressed that to him. I just felt it, but I never expressed it. So, he was just doing what guys do, just
Right.
that's,
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, it's easy for me to be able to forgive him because he didn't know, he didn't know. So that's what that was for me. Just wanting to be seen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I had not been seen, before by anyone really. No one really seen me for the person that I thought I really was. They
Hmm.
seen this outer shell of who Crishell was, but I guess I just was asking for something or wanting something that I couldn't ask for. I didn't know how to ask for it. I just wanted him to be able to see me, but he never did.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, that is Crishell, I want to thank you because I'm listening to you talk about how you were so quiet. You didn't talk a lot, but I think that your words are so impactful and big today, because I'm hearing you actually speak to the pain, right? Not feeling wanted, not feeling seen. And I know that part of becoming is being able to put language to the exhaustion, language to our experiences, and being able to sit in the truth, of being able to say, like, that is what I want. Um, this is where the hole is. This is where the pain is. I don't feel wanted. I've never feel wanted. I don't feel seen. I've never feel seen, or I don't feel heard, and so I don't feel safe. And so I thank you. I always find it interesting how people describe themselves. Like you talk about, like, I don't talk that much. I'm an introvert, but I'm listening to you talk, and so okay, I'm a flip the switch real quick, because I'm just thinking about how Satan will create a narrative um, of who we are, because I'm listening to how powerful your words are, and how you're just spot on. And so I can see why he needed to keep you quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm hoping that, and I know, not that I hope, that, when this airs and people are listening, that those words, I mean, when I tell you they are spot on, and that is so many people do not know how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have the vocabulary to describe how they feel. And so I just think it's just a blessing, um, from the woman who doesn't talk a lot, to carry these powerful words and being able to identify those things.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And the crazy thing is, you probably didn't even know that was the goal. Like, you know how God is working on you, and you just accepting things as they go because that's your nature. And then he's like, "Yeah, but I actually want you to speak." And you're like, "No, you don't. I've never spoke before. I'll ease you into it." It's just this give and take. That's what the true relationship is. So we have talked a lot about who you were in your book of becoming. We talked a whole lot about what your journey was and how you experienced it. But I want to talk about the flip side of that. So, one of the questions that we always ask, as we get closer to the end, is the concept of letting go. Because, of course, our goal here is to let go. So we've laid it out for you guys. If you want to know what Chris' life was really like, go read the book and you get it all. But what I want to know, what we want to know, what this community wants to know is, what does letting go mean to you as it pertains to becoming her?
Oh, letting go is letting go is letting God, letting Him do the work. Um, just pursuing after Him because I knew from a young girl that there was something different. about me. And um, of course, the book is really about that discovery for me. But just to answer that question again, it's just letting go, was just letting God do his work, letting God, show up in my life, for me to be able to sit with him and sit with all of the feelings and all of the emotions that I had, that I suppressed, over the years. Um, and so that's what it is. That's what letting go is for me. Letting go is just letting God come in and letting him show me
Mhm.
who I truly am. And yeah, just living that out. Just living it out. I think it's just having the God-like qualities that I have. That's why it hasn't really been so much of a struggle for me to be able to forgive people and to be able to just go on. I can hold a lot of what I've been through inside of me, but I know there's just a weight, that's gonna just keep me from, being able to rise higher. And I know that rising higher is the goal for me, just not letting everything just keep me way down, not even my own thoughts and even my own, insecurities and all of those things, just rising higher. And that's part of letting go so I can, go higher.
Absolutely. That was beautifully said. Letting go and pursuit are the two things that I heard. I'm going to let go of this stuff so I can pursue. And the whole process of the mirror that says, this is who you are. Don't be ashamed. We're going to change that, but let me do it. Um,
Yes.
God speaking to that part of you. Beautifully said. Dr. Tasha, is there anything else you want to add?
Um, of course. So I think that as I keep looking at the title, becoming her, just the different titles of each chapter, and I just want to remind everyone that it is a process. It's almost like writing a book. There's a chapter to each part of the journey, and it's going to take a lot of courage. And so I was just thinking about the scripture that the Holy Spirit spoke to me when I've had to take big leaps and prepare to do the work, right? Prepare to let go of what I think and trying to control it. And it was Joshua 1:9. And it's, have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And that's what I also hear Crishell saying is the ability to let go and allow God to take you on the journey. I also heard you talk about the with the grace, right? So the self judgment. In the awareness, we are going to see a lot of things that we're gonna be like, yeah, like I don't want to accept that this is how I'm showing up to life, or I don't want in this radical honesty. It's like you will find some relationships, and you have to be willing to look at them. And so I think the question that I would ask, no matter where you are at in the journey of becoming, whether you are in that self-reflection, self-awareness stage, if you're in that action stage, is what are you willing to lose? What is it going to cost you on your journey to become?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everything costs.
Yes.
May not be the same. It all costs. Well, this has been an absolutely amazing uh, interview, conversation, podcast, however you want to categorize it. So many great things that have come out. The prayer and the hope is that we've talked about something or explored something that brings solace to an individual, some grace to someone that may be starting this journey. Or maybe you have written down the journey, you know who you are, and you dropping the bags right now, like you just letting it go. It's all on paper, it's out there. I'm ready to drop the bags now and pick up something new. So we talked about letting go and then pursuing. And what I hear is that God created space let me drop this off of you. Let's put it in a book format so we can help somebody else. But now we have margin. We got space. Let's move forward. So I'm absolutely excited about your next chapter and can't wait to see one, what this book does to heal other people, but also what this process does to heal you. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, I'm excited, and let me just also just add this too, that I created or started a podcast myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is I Am Becoming Her. So that's more of me living outside of that shell that I've been in, and so people are able to hear my voice. um I've taken a step, like I'm just gonna be brave and just speak, and as I'm speaking, I'm hoping that it touches the right, people, the right person, to let them know that even though you may feel a certain way about yourself, you may think that you are something that you are not, but if you have something that you want to do, just take those leaps forward and just do it. So I just wanted to also add that I did also start a podcast. So.
Yeah, you have to tell everybody where to find you. So we need to know what the podcast is, if there's a social media, the where can they buy the book, all of that good stuff.
Oh, sure, sure. So the podcast is on Spotify. Again, it's titled I Am Becoming Her. My book, Becoming Her, is out on Amazon right now. That's the only place where you can purchase it for right now. So hopefully, whomever is out there that's listening, that again can relate to me and some of my story, will be able to pick up the book, or just tune in to my podcast, which I'm trying to do the podcast. I want to do episodes like weekly, but right now I'm just kind of getting my feet wet. So I'm just dropping a few. I have dropped a few right now, but more to come.
Hold up the book again. So everybody
Yes,
sees the cover.
her. Yes.
Coming her. So y'all know what the book look like, so you won't buy a different one.
So I have a question really quick, and this just keep coming. Are you doing a book launch? Have you done a book launch?
No.
So I think I'm putting that out there because maybe we need to get that in the works, like launch your baby.
Yeah.
I'm a challenge.
Yeah.
Y'all know I love my challenges on here. And so,
Love challenges. Yeah.
Miss Crishell, if I may challenge you,
Okay.
do I have your permission to challenge you?
Sure.
Girl, launch that book. Can we do a book launch? Let's get a book launch together.
Okay.
Yes, book
Up-
one sounds good.
I'm up to it.
Tell the world where to find you, girl. They need to know what this book is. So that was the challenge to Crishell. She needs to launch her book. So y'all, it won't just be on this podcast or on her social media. We trying to get it out to the world. So um, that's next step, next phase is listen. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate the time, the effort. Thank you for staying on here with us, going through this conversation. And as always, when we end, there's one question we have for not only us, but you. And that question is, are you ready to let go?
You ready to let it go?
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank y'all.